Okay, hi. I always have that little slight worry if I've pressed record or not, and it's actually recording. Every time I do an interview and people really give themselves to this process, I'm always like, oh God, did I press record? Hello again, it's Frank, and this is my stories of their lives. I got the title wrong. Can't believe myself. Stories of our lives. My project's to talk to amazing people, and who is all of us. You know, all of us are amazing. That's the thing. And just get a sense for who the people are as they sit with me for 40 minutes or whatever it is, and we just explore their stories and, you know, whatever, wherever they go with whatever we talk about. And I've got another fantastic generous person that's given up some time. She's called Prita Grealy. I know absolutely nothing about her apart from literally 2 minutes ago I looked at her Facebook page. So this could be really interesting. This could go really wrong. No, I'm joking. So so let's just say hi to Prita. Hi, Prita.
Hi, how you going?
So listen, I'm going to throw something at you as we get into your story, and that is the fact that this project of mine is kind of growing now, and I'm really loving it so much. And so Kerry, my partner, she made a list of some really dynamic, creative people that she said, yeah, these people would be fantastic for you to interview, and your name was on the list. So my first throw at you is, how does that feel? Do you recognise yourself as a person that would be on a list like that?
Yes, I do, but it's also a really big compliment for me. Like, and it's so nice to be recognised in that way. For me, it's just like, yes, I've made it.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, that's exactly how I would love to be recognised and known. So that's, for me, that's very, very great recognition for me. Start off
yeah.
With.
Yeah. It's fascinating because I say this every time, so apologies to people that have already heard this about 50 times. But the nature of the relationships I have with the people I interview is fascinating. It really makes me realise, especially when it's with acquaintances, people I think I know, but I really don't know them. And I find out that I've made so much stuff up. You know, you fill in the gaps of the people you know, kind of thing. And it's just, it fascinates me, like, because I made a list of people I wanted to talk to and kind of, managed to get hold of for those, and then Kerry going through the list and picking certain people out, and I find it fascinating. To, like, I don't think you've ever met Kerry. Have you met Kerry in person?
So.
No, so that's really amazing that
online, like, we're probably in some groups online, and we've probably chatted, like, on each other's comments and things, and it's funny how these connections happen, and I love it. It's amazing.
Yeah, I think that's the beautiful side of social media, is that we're able to do, am I right in saying you're in Oslo?
I am at the moment, yes. Yeah.
Yes, so you're in Oslo, I'm here, and we can just have this conversation. We've never met. It's just beautiful. It's like, So okay, let's get. So I'm in Whitstable in Kent.
Okay, cool.
It's about an hour from London.
Okay, I might have been there because I tour quite often over in England. So
okay,
maybe not there, but in the nearby,
in that area. Yeah. So I want to talk because, as I say, I literally just looked at the Facebook page, because part of this is not so much, what you do is obviously important, and we'll get to that, but it's kind of, I don't want to prep myself too much because I want to just see who you are in the moment. Do you know what I mean? So I try not to, but I obviously did look at your Facebook page, and I know that music is massive for you. So obviously we'll get to that. But let's, first of all, I find identifiers really interesting. So you've got, to me, an interesting name, Prita. Yes. Which I pronounced wrong at the beginning. That's okay. So let's talk about that, and let's talk about other things that I'm fascinated in. Is, like, first start, your accent. So I'm, that's placing you in my head. I'm making up a story about who you are. So can we talk about where you're from, identity wise, and that and your name, which I love.
Yeah. So I'm Australian. I was born in Australia. I've been living in Europe for the past 6 years or so. Okay. And I quite often get mistaken for people like, are you English or are you something? Because I think my accent is, it changes a little bit when I speak to different people. And I think because I've been here for so long, I adapt to try and speak more clearly. and that becomes English to me somehow in my mind, like without realizing. But yeah, so I'm from Australia, from Western Australia, from Perth. And I kind of grew up all over the place because my family always moved. So I actually spent time on the East Coast and the West Coast. So I kind of identify myself as a bit of an Australian gypsy, I guess, in a way.
Interesting. Yeah.
And my name is another whole another bucket of words.
I love it. Bring it on. Bring it on. That's what we're here for.
You want to do that? Okay. You want to go there? Let's go there.
We do. We do.
Okay. Yeah, I don't always explain my name because it's one of those stories that can be quite long. But basically, my parents were hippies. That's my short answer. That's the shortest answer. And if I go into detail, if I tell you the truth, my parents were.
Mel, come on, we've got time. No one's listening.
Okay.
I have zero following.
Oh, I'm sure you have more than zero following. Yeah, so my parents were following an Indian guru when I was young.
Wow.
Very young, from about when I was a baby, I guess, from about then onwards. So Prita is actually a given name. It's not my birth name.
Wow.
It's actually like a spiritual name that they give you. Like when you join this kind of thing, you can get a new name as part of recreating your identity and whatever. It's, I guess that's the spiritual side of it. So the actual full given name that they gave me, that the Indian guru gave me, his name's Bhagwan or Osho. For those of you that might know who that is, mostly probably not. So my full given name is Mahadeva. Was it Mahadeva Prita, which means Mother Divine Beloved, which is pretty nice. It's a pretty good name to have. Yeah.
So is the Prita bit beloved?
Yeah.
Excellent.
Yeah, which is.
So I have so many questions already. So many questions. This is brilliant. So tell me just about. Were you called? So hold on a second. Were you christened or anything like that in a Western kind of way?
I was given my birth name. I was never christened because we weren't like religious in that way. But
yeah, of course. Yeah.
But yeah, my birth name is Alicia Sky.
So have you ever gone by that name?
Yes, for the first maybe 5 years of my life, I went by that name.
Wow.
And I actually really still love that name. Like, there's something about that name that I find really beautiful and really soft and gentle. And Alicia Sky, it's like a really kind of nice feeling name.
That's so brilliant. No, I was going to say, is Alicia Sky you in any way?
I feel like it is. I feel like it's a part of me that maybe, it's really weird. Like, we're going to go there. But so Prita to me is a much more powerful name, is a very strong name and a very direct name and a very fire kind of name. It's got fire, which I think I must have needed at some point to get me through whatever was happening in my life to the next stage, And people often ask me if it's a stage name. And I'm like, no, it's my real name. But maybe it kind of is on the big stage of the world.
Right.
So an Alicia Sky for me it almost feels like a very, how do I describe it? Like a more watery kind of feel. Like it's more gentle, more soft, more maybe kind of more introverted, more sensitive, and which is definitely a part of my personality.
Yeah. I love it.
Yeah. And so what happened when I was a kid was that I was called Alicia up until about school time. My grandparents continued to call me Alicia for a really long time, which I kind of loved because in a way that was like I kept that part of my identity and it was a special name with just them and no one else.
Yeah.
But my parents called me Prita from about 3 or 4 years old onwards. And then when I got to starting school, I had to choose which name I wanted to be called.
Wow. Oh my God.
Which is mega. It's so big. It's such a big decision to make as a child.
And you were so young.
Yeah. So young.
Oh my God. So what did you chose Prita?
Well, I changed schools quite a few times, so I tried both names out, to be honest.
Brilliant.
Yes.
That's so funny.
And I found at one of the schools that I was at when I was going to live with my dad for a while on the East Coast, because that was another story, but they were basically split up and living on different sides of Australia.
Okay, yeah,
I went to live with him for a bit, and my older brothers, and I tried the name Alicia in school over there for about a month or something, and I got so annoyed because there were other Alicias in the class. That annoyed me so much. Like, the teacher would say, put up your hand, and people put up their hand, and there'd be like, it felt to me like there were 5 Alicias in my class.
Right.
And I hated being the same as anyone else. Like, to me, brilliant. That was like, I don't want the same name as anyone else, and no one's called Prita. Like, no one.
Yeah, of course.
Definitely an individual name. So that was kind of my deciding factor when I was, however old I was, 5.
So how old do you think you were then, roughly?
I think I was about 5 or 6 years old, maybe 6.
At that age, you were kind of like, I want to be me. I want to be kind of, I don't want to be another Alicia.
Yeah.
That's brilliant. That's so cool. Oh my God, I love this. This is why I love doing this. I've always loved listening to people's stories. So the other question I wanted to get to was, you know, I've never been to Australia, but I know that it's pretty big. So when you say, like, when Americans say I'm split between the East Coast and West Coast, that, you know, that's pretty big. When Australians say East Coast, West Coast, I'm like, oh my God, where's home?
Yeah, it's a really good question. I've got no idea.
Do you have a sense of where home is? Do you have that in your heart somewhere, or are you a nomad? Are you kind of like a free spirit?
A bit of both, to be honest. I went through a massive thing when I was about 17 about where home was, like a massive thing in my heart, like, where the hell is my home? Like, because we'd moved houses so many times, and also because I'd also gone back and forth between my mum and my dad. So living with my mum on the West Coast or living with my dad on the East Coast.
Yeah.
And they both moved. So there's a lot of movement my whole childhood, my whole life.
Wow.
And to me, home became where my mum is. That became home. And wherever she lived, that was kind of became my home. Whenever I'd go back to somewhere, I'd go back to her house and that would be home.
Right.
Yeah. I think I lost you there for a second.
Oh, God, I thought I lost you too. Yeah, I think we're good.
And then in general, Fremantle in Australia, the Fremantle Perth area in Australia, that's in general feels like home, but no particular house as such.
And did you find there a sensibility difference between the East and the West? Will you find that you're kind of like, you know, we just go about our lives, but there a difference between Westerners and Easterners? You know, is there something that you fit in a different way where you adjust in a different pattern, or is it just people?
I think there is a difference. They're quite far apart, so things are definitely people on the East Coast say that people on the West are 10 years behind. That's like the joke, like in everything, you know, like that's the joke, that the West Coast is much more kind of laid back and relaxed.
Right.
And like we're so far behind in all the trends and everything, and probably not so much now because of internet, but you know.
Of course, yeah.
But East Coast, like Sydney and Melbourne, definitely. Brisbane's pretty laid back. I mean, it depends also where on the East Coast, because the more southern places are colder and they're kind of a bit more faster paced, and the more north you go, the more slower everyone and more relaxed. I don't know, it's just a thing. Like,
I'm giggling because I'm listening to an Australian say they're colder. Like Brisbane's colder.
Brisbane's warmer. So
that makes a British person chuckle. So listen, you've talked so beautifully about it, but I'm just so curious. I'm like, so if you were to, let's just press a little bit deeper and then we'll move on. But like, you know, we're just touching the surface, but it's so lovely. But I mean, your childhood then, you know, and I'm thinking, because we're going to move into who you are and why you're in Europe and all that kind of stuff. But like, with that in mind, you know, do you look back with fondness? Was it hard for you? did you manage yourself, or were you free in it? I know that's a massive question for like a full interview.
Yeah, I mean, there were parts of it that were definitely hard for me, but I think it also gave me a lot. I think it gave me a lot of strength and independence at a very young age. I think I became very good at making friends very quickly wherever I went. Bringing out the social side of myself more, and just learning how to just like adapt and just adapt is like the key word, and be flexible.
Yeah.
And I think it made me much more resilient to a lot of things, because it's like change happens. Changes were normal, you know? So I was never sort of stuck on or held up on things having to be the same in any way, shape or form.
Wow. That's so cool. We're going to come back to that, because I got a question specifically about that. So it's brilliant you've said that. Every single time I do one of these interviews, I have this thing that I'm supposed to do. I'm an idiot. I just don't plan properly. Right at the start of the interview, I'm supposed to ask you. It's a cool little thing. So I'm gonna ask you this at the end. Okay, so you don't answer it now.
Okay.
You just keep it. I want you to tell me. It doesn't have to be long, but I want you to tell me a story. Think of a song that is meaningful for you in some way, and I want you to tell me a short story about the song at the end of the interview.
Okay. I'll keep that in the back of my mind. Yeah. Yeah.
Love it. I love it. Okay, so I interviewed a lovely woman that I had been to university with. I haven't seen her for years, and we got in touch, and she's just great. And she was her childhood was her family were, her father was in the services. I think her mother and father were in the services. She moved around a lot. Yeah. And she's now living in she's British. She's now living in Luxembourg, and she's talking. She's seriously. Her and her husband are talking about taking the kids on the road kind of thing over the next few years. They're still quite young. And I was like, wow, do you get that you did that as a kid? And she's like, wow, I never really put that together. That's really fascinating that she's kind of recreating. Maybe I don't know if that's true or not, but it was just interesting. So for you, as someone that moved around a lot as a child, does that lead into you? I mean, that question, I suppose when I asked that question, where's home? Because usually that's one of my questions. I saved that for later. Yeah. But that was so relevant. Yeah. And because I'm thinking, okay, here's a person whose home is potentially thousands of miles away. What was Europe? Why Europe? Why come away from where home is? What was that about?
So Europe for me, I guess it was always like a lot of Australians, and especially a lot of people from Perth on the West Coast, because it is so isolated. But I think a lot of people in general, but yeah, definitely more Perth maybe, are more travellers and more adventurous, because they're like, I got to get out of here. I got to see some stuff. I got to see the world. Right. I got to see what it's all about, because it is.
But that won't be going to the East Coast though.
Well, I'd already done that, so for me that wasn't such an adventure. I'd seen a lot of the East Coast, lived there, and so for me it was much more like, I want to go overseas. Like overseas is the big thing. Oh, I want to go overseas. And a lot of people save up for their, the gap year kind of thing.
Yeah.
Save up to go overseas for a year or so. And I did that when I was 19. I went to Thailand by myself.
Right.
And went on like some amazing meditation retreats and things like that. Rafting down things and riding elephants, all that sort of stuff, as you do when you're 19.
Yeah.
Or anytime. And then, so I came back to Australia, and I was like, right, I worked for a long time, and then I was like, okay, I always had this kind of itchy feeling for traveling. Like I just knew it was part of who I was or who I am.
Wow. Yeah.
And my first kind of thing over to Europe was just a backpacking trip when I was about 26, 27.
Right.
And it was actually a huge thing for me to do, because I'd been in a relationship for 6 years with a really lovely guy.
Wow.
And I decided to actually break that off to go traveling and and go without a plan, because I was like, I got to scrap my plan. I've just got to go and be free and see what happens.
That's amazing. Wow.
And it was like,
did you agonize it? Was that, I was going to say, was that a tough decision to make? It must have been hard.
Really tough. Like it was a huge decision. And he was a really lovely guy, and there was like nothing wrong with him or, you know, it or anything, but it was just like, I know that inside me there's so much more, and I'm not doing it here. I can't
Can
do
we
it.
just, yeah, can I want to try, I know this is really hard, but I
Yeah.
want to can you focus in and try to articulate what that was?
What
That
the
that feeling inside, that whatever it was, you know, this is a lovely guy and you've been together, you created a
yeah.
relationship, but something, what is that thing that you just,
For
it's
me,
like,
yeah, for me, like, you know, we'd built this kind of relationship. We were quite young, you know, we'd been together since I was 21. And so we'd kind of grown together in those 20s years together.
yeah,
But for me, work-wise, he was also a musician, like, and is still a very fabulous, amazing musician. Um, but it helped me in a way to like follow in his footsteps a little bit and travel with him and play with him and you know, stuff. But I also felt at some point that I was living in his shadow a little bit.
wow, yeah,
Because he was much further ahead in the game than I was, and I would quite often feel like I was treated like I was in the shadow. Do you know what I mean? Like by other people that knew when we were together, he would be the one they'd talk to, not me.
Yeah,
and that just chat me so much. That was one thing. But another thing was that I wasn't fully following my passion. He was.
right. Wow.
So of course I was in the shadow because I wasn't actually claiming it.
Yeah.
I was living in that sort of like, I kind of want to do this, but I don't believe in myself kind of area.
Yeah.
And I tried so many different jobs in that time. I worked a lot in hospitality, and I studied so many different things trying to find what my thing was.
Right.
And I tried everything else except for music, everything. And eventually I did like music business, which was great, like actually really helpful. I became a massage therapist because I'm also, that's another side of me too, like the healing side. But in the music side, I was just singing a little bit on weekends and with other bands and this, that, and the other. And then I got to a point where I was like, I don't know what it is, what I want to do, but I know it's this restlessness that I have inside me. And I would go around in this cycle of trying a new thing, being excited about it, and then getting to a point where I was like bored with it and then to get depressed. And it was really like this cycle going around and around. I kept coming back to feeling depressed. I was like, I've got to do something about this. I'm responsible for my energy and how I feel. And if I'm not the one who changes this, no one else is going to fix it.
Absolutely. God, that's so good.
And that was the point for me, I think, where I was like, I got to get out of here. I got to go see the world. I got to see what else there is because it's not here. I've tried everything.
Right.
And I've tried everything, and he's lovely, and this is all nice and normal, and we could just go on forever like this.
Yeah.
But I can't deal with that feeling of always coming back to feeling depressed.
Yeah, there's a hole
inside
in
of me, in my soul. Yeah, in my soul, like my soul was depressed, and I was like, my soul was craving and longing for something bigger out there, and I know it's out there. It's not here.
Oh, that's so cool. And so, when you went backpacking, did you then go back and then come back again, or was backpacking?
Well, this is a whole other. So I went backpacking. Yeah, I literally like packed a massive backpack, way too big. With, you know, everything I thought I needed for this trip, and like carrying basically my body weight in a backpack. Which is very good for my fitness, but not so good for my back. So I went, backpacking around Europe, and I had a great adventure because before I left, I told everyone I'm going to Europe. I'm going to go backpacking. And so everybody was putting me in touch with their sister and their cousin and their friend. And I did a great adventure where I just went around staying with people I knew or barely knew, or someone knew them that I knew. And the generosity of people that just open their homes to this backpack.
That's fantastic. This is your fourth cousin or something like.
Yeah. Like so-and-so, so-and-so down the road, my neighbour from the fourth, it's her,
Yeah, right.
And it was incredible because that gave me such an adventure of just being so open and free to just kind of explore and go wherever and see whatever. And I had kind of an open plan. Like I didn't have a plan. I just had a few people that, you can go there, you can go there. And if worst comes to worst, go back home. You know?
Yeah.
And so I was just traveling around from person to person, staying a week here, a couple of weeks there, a few days there, all through different parts of Europe. And I think I started off in London, and I was with a friend of a friend in London.
Yeah,
And
right.
having a great time there. And what happened there was that one of the girls was moving out of the house, and they offered me the room.
Right.
And I was also going to hang out at their work, and I got offered a job at their work.
Wow.
So I had suddenly this offer of a room and a job.
Oh my God.
But I'd only just left Australia, and I was like,
I see. Yeah.
oh, I'm not really ready to stop yet. Like, and I know that if I take up this room and this job, it'll be great fun and great experience, but I won't see the rest of Europe. And that's not what this journey is about. So I had to make a really tough decision to go, this is awesome that I'm being offered this, but no, I'm going to have to say no. I'm going to keep going. Like,
I love it. Do you know what? I love these forks in our lives where we could have done one thing and could have done the other. And oh my God, that's so cool. So you went around Europe? Yeah,
so I left and I went over to France, stayed with a friend of a friend in France and in a tiny village. That was amazing, you know. And it was a family. It was like a mum and a dad and a couple of little cute kids, and that was a great little experience. And being surrounded in a French village, you know, just amazing. And then they actually left me the keys to their house, and people I barely knew. And I stayed there for a couple more days. Then I caught a bus down to Paris, and I think I stayed in a youth hostel in Paris, and ended up, you know, meeting people there and making friends. And then I moved on from there to Switzerland, and I was in Switzerland for a while in Zurich, and that was amazing. And volunteered at a little school for a while, teaching English to little kids, and, you know, just having these amazing experiences.
Yeah.
While I was there, one of my friends was like, you should do this Vipassana retreat, like this meditation thing. And I'd always heard about it and always thought, oh, that's really cool. I'd love to do that. So I ended up finding one and going to Italy, into the mountains in Italy, and doing this 10-day silent retreat where you meditate. Yeah. It was amazing. That's another amazing thing. Met a whole bunch of people there, went on traveling around through Slovenia with them and through parts of Italy. And while I was on that journey with these, you know, amazing people, I got offered a job through my brother, working in America on a private yacht.
Wow.
And I was like, oh, that's a big one. That's a good one.
That's a big one.
Like, do I want to do that? And I was coming to that point where I think I'd been traveling for about 3 months, and I was starting to run out of cash.
Yeah.
And I was like, right, I got to think about some kind of work. And I was at the time thinking about teaching English in Italy, because I was like, I love Italy, and maybe I can find a school where I can teach English there and just
yeah.
But then this other offer came from my brother, and I was like, he's like, you've got a week to decide, and if you decide, you've got to just, you know, think about it, decide, and then you've got a week to get to Miami and be on that boat before they leave, because they're leaving soon and they need a stewardess. And so I was just like, fuck it, I'm going. And I went. Yeah.
Awesome. What a turn. That's amazing.
Yeah.
And you did that?
I did that, and I ended up doing that for 2 years, traveling all over the world, like incredible, all over America,
oh my
Bahamas,
God,
Caribbean, and then we did a whole Mediterranean season, but a lot around America and the Bahamas and Caribbean. Yeah,
that's fantastic.
That
oh my God, listen, we should do part 1 and part 2 of this, because you tell such a good story. I love it.
Thanks.
But listen, I really want to talk to you about music, because obviously, you know, that seems to be, you know, it's on your Facebook page there. It's the first thing I saw. You know, just talk about it. I mean, was it something you knew as a kid? Has it always been in you? Was it something you had an epiphany about later on in life?
Yeah.
Tell us how it happened.
Yeah, for me, I feel like music was always in me. I was always singing. Singing was definitely the first thing. Like, I was always singing. As a kid, I was making up songs and singing, like, about the ducks and the birds and flowers. You know, and like all through school, my parents gave me a guitar when I was about 3 or 4 years old as well. So I would sort of muck around on that, but I wasn't really learning it until I was about a teenager.
Mm.
But all through school, I would do anything musical. I'd be like, pick me. Like, if we got to sing in a choir or a performance, I'd be like, no. So I'd always be trying to, like, put myself forward for these things, and was always picked to go in these things. And I was told from quite a young age that I had a good voice and a strong voice.
Right.
So I knew that was in me. And then I learned a little bit of piano and a little bit of this and a little bit of that as I went, grew up, and guitar. And then when I did high school, my last 2 years, you had to really choose and focus what you wanted to do. So I was doing drama, music, biology, chemistry, English, and maths, which is like, okay, trying to like cover all bases.
Good spread.
Good spread. But music was quite a big focus, and drama as well. And we were doing a lot of like school performances and things where we'd travel to other cities and perform with other schools. And I was doing a lot of dance at the time. And I actually thought I wanted to be a dancer at one point.
Wow.
So I was quite intensely like studying dance and then doing ballet and all that kind of stuff. And then but I also was loving singing, and I thought I wanted to be a jazz singer. So I was trying to audition for jazz conservatoriums and all that kind of stuff.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Anyway, so moving forward, I kind of didn't do any of those things, and then went off traveling in Australia and working and doing other kinds of jobs, and got to a point where I moved back to Perth again, because I was on the East Coast. So kind of went around and then on to Perth.
Yeah.
And I was like, I need to start doing music again. And it was just like this quiet little thing inside me. I've got to start doing music. And so I just started finding people that I could play with, and started performing like open mics and just, putting the feelers out. And it just grew from there. I, met other musicians, met my boyfriend at that time, who was this great musician, and ended up touring a lot with him and being in bands with him. And, like it just grew and grew and grew.
Yeah, it becomes part of the life, yeah.
Yeah. But it was always kind of on the side as well. Like I loved it, and it was in me and my passion, but it was a side thing. I didn't believe I could make a career out of it. I was like, oh no, who gets to do that? Like you have to be so amazing and so good if you can make a career.
Right.
And so I think for me, it was a big self-confidence or self-worth issue for a long time, like just not believing that I was good enough to be able to do that.
Wow. So many people have issues with that. It's fascinating.
Yeah. And the turning.
So what was the? Yeah, you carry on. Yeah.
Sorry. Yeah, the turning point. Turning point for me was actually, it fits in well to the other story. So when I was working on this private yacht in America, and we were like actually somewhere in the Caribbean or the Bahamas, I think Caribbean. We're in St. Martin in the Caribbean, which is a beautiful island. And we're in the middle of a season, and we'd been working really, really hard. And I was exhausted and just kind of going, what am I doing? I can't do this forever. Like it was amazing. Like it had been an amazing job. We'd traveled to so many cool places and had so many incredible experiences that you just wouldn't have had otherwise. But there was like part of my soul was just longing again for music and performing and healing and doing these kind of things. And so it was on that trip that I went down to the beach one day and just sat writing in my journal and crying and just sitting on this beach, and it was stormy. And I just remember this day, like stormy beach, sitting there by myself, no one else on the beach, writing in my journal and just letting it all out, because I had to be alone to let it out, because I didn't want to do it around my crew and cabin friends, mates and people I work with. Right. So I was just like getting it all out. And I literally wrote all the stuff that was shitty in my life that I wasn't enjoying. And I literally turned the page, and then I wrote down all the things that I really, really did want in my life. Like, what do I really, really want once I'd gotten all the shitty stuff away,
Yeah, right.
And it was like music, performing, and for me at the time, it was also healing and massage stuff. So I was like, right, from this moment on, I need to take steps forward to do that.
Wow, that's so cool.
And it was such a...
sorry to interrupt you, but I love the fact, because I had a similar thing, but it's not about me, it's about you. But that point that you know what I mean, you made that decision. You sort of, I love that. You kind of had an epiphany, and it's like, I can't keep doing this. I've got to do something. And then it's almost like from that point, I'm all in. I'm just going to find a way to do it.
Yeah, exactly. And so I continued, I literally stood up after that, put my stuff away, stood up on this beach, and I heard music in the distance. And I was just like, is that a live band? And it sounded like live music. So I was like, is that a live band? Oh my God. And it was like, I followed the music. I really literally followed the music down the beach. I walked towards it. It was like this band that was playing in front of a hotel on the beach, like way down the other end. And I got there and I got myself a drink and I went and sat down, and I was feeling very raw and very vulnerable because I'd just been crying. And I was like, God, I probably look like shit. My face is like a mess. But I was like, and I was there by myself. So I was feeling quite like, you know, just very raw and like, whew, okay, I'm really putting myself out here, just even sitting here having a drink, you know, like, whew.
Right.
And then I thought, okay, in the break, I'm just going to go and talk to the guys in the band and just ask, you know, if they know anywhere I can play a gig, where I could start out somewhere, whatever.
Brilliant.
So I went and had a chat with them, and the guy was like, yeah, come back tomorrow. You can open the set for us. You can do like 3 songs. You can do 3 songs at the start, and that'll be like, you know, you can get a foot in the door and just see how it goes. Because at that point, I wasn't looking for money at all either. I was like, I just wanted to get back out there and get the experience. I had a job, you know, working on this boat.
Yeah.
I had my security, you know, of this boat job, but it was like I needed to put myself out there again and be brave.
Right.
And so it was really about being courageous and being brave and just taking those little baby action steps to move towards that thing that I was aching and desiring for so bad, you know.
I love that.
And the incredible thing that happened from that was that was just like this rolling, what do you call it? The ball started rolling. Like that was like the first point. And then, so I came back the next day, played 3 songs before this band, and they're like, wow, that was great. You should come back again. And that was all really good. And while I was playing, there was a guy in the audience listening from the local radio station. And he was like, oh,
no
hey,
way.
Would you come in and do an interview? And I was like, yeah, sure, no worries. So I was like, I've got to just say yes to these opportunities that come
definitely
for me. And so I did this interview, and then through that I met someone else, and they're like, do you want to come and play a gig at this restaurant? And so I did that. And then basically everywhere we went, and then like I was on a boat, so like we were leaving whenever we had to leave. We just had to leave. There was no like set plan. There's like a rough itinerary for the season, and then you just have to be ready to like drop everything and be in the next place.
Yeah.
And meanwhile working every day on the boat as well. So this is just like after work or on the weekends. And so we ended up going, you know, to Puerto Rico and you know, to Fort Lauderdale, and everywhere we went, I would just literally go out, search the music, find the music, talk to the people, and I just talk to the bands and be like, oh, hey, is any chance I could, you know, do you know anywhere I could play some songs, or, you know, could I play some songs for you sometime, blah, blah. And every single time that I did that, they offered me to come and play before them to open the set, every single time. So I was like, well, go for it.
Can I just say something? Listen, anybody that's watching this, just listen to what Prita's saying, because so much of the stuff that I'm learning and I've learned in my life and I'm doing now is about just taking a step. You know, if you've got that passion, you know, if you've got it in your heart, it's going to always nag at you. And if you don't do something to it, I'm not saying you're going to be a movie star or whatever. Who fuck knows what's going to happen? But just do something towards it, because it's going to eat your soul if you don't do it. Please, just listen to what this lady's saying. And it's brilliant, because the minute you start and you take a step, crazy stuff starts happening. And, you know, it might not be even what you imagined it to be, but stuff starts opening up. And that is so beautiful. I love it.
Yeah. And that's exactly that. Like when I've found that to be true, like throughout my life, when you take one step towards really following what's your heart's desire, like that deepest aching desire, things just unfold that you could never imagine. And it might not be, you know, I might not end up being, you know, Beyonce or something like that, which might have been my first goal in, you know, or my first dream goal or whatever. But I'll get somewhere that I need to be, and I will have expressed my soul, and I will have gotten out of my own way and done what needs to be done. You know, like it's a different journey, you know, and it's all beautiful where you end up. It doesn't matter where you end up.
Absolutely. Our big thing at the moment, and we're doing classes, and we're going to be doing retreats, and part of it, one of the key parts is everything is your life. Every part of your experience is your life. It's not just the good bits. Yeah. And you know, it's because, like, what does that mean? You're going to just shut down and hibernate when it's a bit shitty? Do you know what I mean? It's like it's not very nice, but it's still your experience. You know what I mean? It's like something that came to me lately was like, everything is a blessing or a lesson. Everything. Absolutely. Oh, I love that. That's so
good.
It's
all valid. It's all your experience. Everything is positive, negative, whatever. It's all part of your experience and your learning.
That's so true. Yeah. Listen. First of all, where can we find your music? Is it okay for me to to tag your website in the video and everything
more
like that.
than okay. Be incredible.
Fantastic. And you got anything out at the moment? Have you got a latest album or anything?
Yes. So you can find me at prita.com.au.
Perfect.
For Australia, or my whole name, pritagrealy.com. And what was the other thing? Things out. Yeah, I've got about 7 or 8 albums online.
Beautiful.
On iTunes and Amazon, CD Baby, all those places, everywhere online. And if you want a physical CD, you can get them from me in person at a gig, and you can see all my gigs on my website as well.
Have you got anything on YouTube that I can maybe tag so people can listen to something? You have. I'll find it. Don't worry. I'll find it.
I'll send you some links because there's
that would be perfect.
That might be suitable. Yeah. For, like, more like this.
That's beautiful.
Kind of what you're talking about. What you want the message.
That would be so cool.
Get out of your own way, which is like all
I
about
love it. That's the one. I want that one. I totally want that one.
Yeah.
Listen. I'm gonna throw some questions at you now, just to change it up a little bit. So, and the first one, this has been gnawing at me for the whole time. Writer or singer?
Sorry, say that again. I missed that.
Writer or singer?
Both.
I love it. Beautiful. Listen, one of my things is I'm fascinated in terms of, it's kind of what we've talked about a lot really, but I've always been fascinated in how we thrive.
Yes.
How we flourish, how we shine, whatever your word is for that.
Yeah.
So what's shining to you? What's thriving? What's flourishing for you, Prita?
For me, it's funny actually. Right now, I feel like I'm in a process of like another evolution. Pardon me, of things like this year has brought out a whole bunch of new stuff for me to like open up and go even further into being who I really am authentically, and also sharing with the world. So for me, there's actually 3 things that are really coming through at the moment, which to me means that I'm on that path and I'm opening up and, shining, whatever. So being on stage and singing is always a happy place for me. And I love that. I love just, being on stage singing, performing, connecting with the audiences and lifting the vibration of the room and the people. And that's one of my things.
Love that.
Also being in a studio recording and, creating is like kind of right there with that one. The next thing is teaching. I love teaching other people and like inspiring other people. So I've done all kinds of different teaching over the years, like, this, that, the other, whatever. But then my newest thing that's really kind of a core thing is teaching people how to sing. Teaching people how to use their voices, teaching people how to activate their voices. And so I created an e-course about that. That's one thing. So people can study that at home. And then I'm making another e-course at the moment about the music industry business. Yeah. So people that were in my position, that I was in 10 years ago, have some kind of roadmap to how to get to a point where you're actually following what you love and making a living out of it.
I love that. Yeah, that's the thing, isn't it? Is you can share. You start to be able to share your wisdom. Then
exactly.
You've been through it.
Yeah, exactly. And the third kind of, don't have enough fingers. The third sort of branch that's sort of coming really strongly again at the moment, because I've always been into like healing and massage and these kind of esoteric kind of stuff as well, spirituality. And so the thing that's coming through for me with that at the moment is that my mission and my purpose here now is to help women activate their voices.
Beautiful. Love it.
Because it's like they've been quiet for too long. They've been submissive for too long. And it's about stepping into your authenticness and your power and being able to just speak your truth. And it doesn't have to be aggressive. It's just an authenticity that has been missing.
Yeah, definitely.
And that's going to balance up. This is going to sound so woo-woo, but that's going to balance up the energy of the world, because there's some beautiful men out there as well. Like my partner, he's a beautiful guy. You're obviously a beautiful guy, and there's people that have got, so many great men that have got so much soul and wisdom and power. But there's also a lot of shitty ones that have been kind of let run havoc, and it's time to bring them back in and be like, no, that's not okay. No, and that's, I think, all that Me Too stuff that's coming in.
Yeah.
That's this kind of movement of women going, hang on a minute, enough's enough, like boundaries, please. Like let's put some boundaries on this and say what's okay, what's not okay. So anyway, that's
absolutely
thing for me.
It's almost like we've like politically and formally we've made this big movement, but actually we need something like deeper culturally to actually recognize some of those things that have been enshrined in law, which is fantastic.
Yeah.
But we need a faster seep down into everyday culture, because there's still a lot of complete pricks walking about thinking it's 1850. Do you know what I mean?
Like, and just thinking it's okay because no one's pulling them up on it.
Right.
And that's all they need, is someone to go, hey, like, well, not just someone, but everyone, men and women, to say, hey, no, that's not appropriate. That's not okay.
Yeah.
And a perfect example of this, just quickly.
Go on.
I was playing a gig the other night, a concert at this place in Norway, and you know, it's a place where people get drunk and they're having a good time, whatever. And I'm used to that, and that's fine. And I know how to deal with it, and it's fine. But this older guy came making a beeline towards me, to where the stage was. And luckily, there's a piano between, like a big grand piano between me and him. So he was kind of leaning on that piano, looking at me and ogling me, and whatever, being drunken and whatever. He started unbuttoning his shirt, facing me, like to me, like opening his shirt up at me, and then he stood there like, well, I'm playing a song. I'm trying to entertain everybody. And he's just like right in front of me doing this, unbuttoning his shirt, gross, and then started playing with his nipple. And I'm just like, really?
Oh my God.
I'm like, really? You're going to do that in front of me right now? And like, I think old me in the past, like being a performer, you've learned so much over the years, but old me would have kind of just tried to ignore him or try and like not let it get to me or whatever.
Yeah.
But new me was like, nah, this is not appropriate. I don't want him to be there. I'm not enjoying his energy or his presence being there, so I'm going to do something about it.
Right.
And I had to think, like, while I'm playing the song, I'm thinking all this stuff, like what's a good way to deal with this so that he doesn't get aggressive? Because quite often people drunk, they can easily flip it out and whatever.
Yeah, absolutely.
So you got to find a way. He's not going to get aggressive, but everybody knows what's going on, and somebody does something about it.
Right.
And so in the next break, in the pause between songs, I was just made a big deal of like talking really clearly and really loudly about this guy standing in front of me with his shirt open, how he was playing with his nipple and staring right at me, and how inappropriate it was. But I was kind of making a joke out of it almost.
Right.
But I also at the end said it was so inappropriate.
Yeah. And
then next thing I knew, I saw a guy out of the corner of my eye get up, walk out, went and grabbed security. Next thing I knew, security came and took him away. And I was like, thank God, like there are good guys out there that will stand up.
That's exactly
if they
it.
know what's going on. But we need to say something about it.
Right.
If I didn't say anything, he would have continued to do that, probably gotten worse, probably done something else. And I would have just been grossed out by this disgusting behaviour.
Yeah, and I think that's where the community of like men and women just say, hold on a second, that's not what we want to, we don't want to live like that, you know what I mean?
And nobody else is enjoying him doing that.
Right, exactly.
Who's being a pain in the ass. Nobody else is enjoying it, so why should any of us put up with that?
I know, absolutely.
So it's a matter of like calling it out, people jumping in, stepping in and like dealing with that situation. Yeah, and that's, I think, on a bigger level, that's what's happening now at the moment as well. Like people calling out, going, "Hang on, no, that's not okay. Like we don't.
It's not okay anymore. Yeah,
we're not going to sit by and just let that happen.
Yeah,
it's
that's
okay.
right.
Yeah. So that's part, it feels like that's part of my thing as well, like helping people.
That's good. That's brilliant. I'm glad you said that. Listen, I got a question for you.
Yes.
Prita Grealy.
Yes.
What are we doing here?
I don't know. What do you mean? Having a chat.
That's brilliant. It's really funny because people like want that qualified, and they're like, some people really have a problem with it. They're like, do you mean me and you, or do you mean the world? And it's like, some people, sometimes that question can really screw with people's heads, you know what I mean? So this is kind of along the same lines, but who are you, Prita?
I am a singer-songwriter from Australia, living in Europe. I am a very spiritual person, and I am someone who lives life to the beat of their own drum.
I love it. That's so good. I love it. That's beautiful. Listen, I've I've got actually, I'm going to do this first, and then I'm going to get to those. So I've got a couple of things, and I'm just going to throw them at you, and fill in the blank at the end. Yeah.
Okay. This sounds fun.
Okay. Pressure comes from
challenges.
Okay. Cool. Success is
following your heart.
Oh, I love it. It all, in the end, it all comes down to
you live, you love, you choose, and you experience, and you learn from everything.
That's lovely. I love it. Listen, I've been working on, no one knows this, but I've been working, I'm really a poet, but I've been working on a small time machine, and I've actually got it, I've got it functioning. I'm going to let you borrow it for a couple of minutes, but it only has a 2-minute lifestyle, so you got to be really precise. Okay. I really want to send you back to your 5 or 6 year old self when you're fluctuating between Alicia and Prita, and I want to know what you're going to say to her.
Oh my God. You did the right thing. That was a good choice. I actually kept all my names. I just made it a part of my name, so I'm happy with my choice. Did good.
I love it.
Keep going.
I love it.
And everything will make sense later on. It might not make sense while it's happening, but it will make sense at the end when you look back and you join the dots. You'll be like, that's why I went through that. I get it. Thank you.
That's so good. That's so good. So listen, we're going to finish up. I don't know if you remember.
Yeah, I remember.
Earlier on. So can you tell me about the song?
Well, it has to be that song, Get Out of Your Own Way, doesn't it? I mean, I'm a songwriter, so I've got to choose one of my own songs, don't I? A little bit of shameless promotion.
So how did that come about?
It was actually from a friend that was reading a book about following your heart and doing what you love. And the basic message boiled down was that the only thing standing between you and your dreams is yourself, and that you have to get out of your own way.
Wow, that's amazing.
So I wrote a song about it.
That's so cool.
And it was a great message, you know. Yeah.
That right there is the kind of the whole essence of like our collective culture, isn't it? And it's not just, it's not bounded by anything, it's just people, really. And then someone writes this and that resonates in someone's heart, and they pass that on. They might not be the creative one, but they pass it on to someone else, and that person takes that up and creates something that's beautiful. Can you do me a favor? Can you let me, do you remember the book?
No, but I can ask, because I'm
if you can find out the book, I would love to, I'd love to link the book and the song together. That would be really cool.
I actually should read the book. Actually, I haven't ever read it. I just took that like one phrase and was like,
oh I see. Sorry, I thought you.
No,
I thought
it's probably a really good book. It's like,
I get it.
Maybe it's like serendipity that you've said that book, and like maybe I should read that too, because I love reading. Why not? Let's all read it together. We can have a book club.
Oh my God, you've been so much fun. Thank you so much, Prita. I really, really appreciate you taking time.
Thank you.
It's been fantastic.
Thanks for having me. I really appreciate the opportunity to actually tell my story, because it's not very often that you get to do that. You know, it's actually a really lovely thing to be able to do as well. So thank you.
That's lovely of you to say that, and that's kind of what I'm looking for. Not looking for the compliment, but you know, that's what it's. That's the kind of space that I'm trying to get to, you know, so that's brilliant. Thank you so much. Right, so what I'll do is I'll obviously I'll let you see this before I put it, you know, I share it, but that'll be in a couple of weeks or something. So thank you so much.
I'm really happy to share it too. Like it's been such a pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you for your time, Prita. It's been brilliant.
Thank you.
Take it easy. Bye.